Hi everybody, and thank you for joining us at the Microsoft Power BI UK user group. I'm your host Leon Gordon, and as always we're back with another fantastic opportunity to come together as a community and learn more about Power BI. As always, the Q&A is now open, so please do let us know where you're dialing in from and where you're joining us from. Hopefully you've all enjoyed some of the sunshine that we've had today down in the UK, and obviously for Mary, she's had some in Belfast as well. So please do let us know how your day's gone so far, and also what you're looking to get from today's session. So in today's session, we'll be looking at getting started with Tabular Editor with Mary Fealty. Now, Mary has been a massive fan of Power BI from its infancy until now. It's used every day in her company, Broadtree Solutions, who develop new Power BI models for a wide range of customers. And Mary also provides training to both Power BI and Excel 365 customers. As I mentioned, she's based in Belfast and covers the UK and Ireland. So without any further ado, I'll just put you over to Mary.
Thank you very much, Leon. Can I just confirm you can hear me okay?
Yes, can hear you fine.
Yes, that's lovely. So thanks very much for joining me on this session. I'm just going to start sharing some slides with you, and we'll get started on that. Right. There we go. Okay, so this is all about getting started with Tabular Editor. And it's me, Mary Fealty, Broadtree Solutions. That's me on Twitter and LinkedIn. But that's what more importantly, let's find out, why am I actually covering this subject? And the first reason is because Tabular Editor is amazing, right? It really, truly is. And I hope I show you why. You can use it to save you a lot of time. And again, you'll see why, and maybe even some heartache as well. But why did I actually tackle this particular subject as a session for people? And the simple reason is I found it really hard to start with. I really didn't find it easy personally, and I sort of thought, right, maybe if I cover this and what I learnt and the way I learnt it with other people, I can help you get started, just make it a little bit easier. Okay, I think it's also important to discuss what this session is not. It's not a how to install guide, for example. It's not delivered by someone who understands C++, and C++ is a language that Tabular Editor uses to do its job. So I can't pretend to truly have any great knowledge here. I hands up, I don't. It's definitely not a deep dive. I want you to think about it as more like dipping your toe into the water. That's essentially what you're going to spend the next 45 minutes or so covering. A few more things to cover on the slides before we actually get into the action itself. When it comes to Tabular Editor, there's two flavors. And what I mean by that is there's Tabular Editor 2, which is an open source and free version of Tabular Editor, and it's superb. There is also Tabular Editor 3, which is a commercial offering, and it starts at 85 euros per year. And I think it's the same in pounds, I'm not sure. I haven't updated the slides for that one. But anyway, it doesn't matter. That's how much it costs. The Tabular Editor 3 is incredible, especially if you're, a hardcore Power BI developer. It's going to totally transform your world. But and then there's more information in the slides that you can go and get the link to. But in this session, I'm going to focus on the Tabular Editor 2 version, the free version. Okay. The very first thing I want to cover is a little bit of orientation, and I'm going to do that within PowerPoint and then recover it again once we're actually working with it. So first off, this is what Tabular Editor looks like, and when we open it, and I'm going to take you through some of the key parts of it. So first off, we've got over on the left hand side basically a replica of the Power BI model. And down in this bottom corner, we have what's called the properties pane, which for people who are familiar with Visual Studio kind of get the gist of what that relates to. If you're like me, who's got no real knowledge there, it took me a while just to appreciate the properties pane, but it's a really, really cool part of the whole infrastructure of Tabular Editor. Now, there's two tabs here. There's Advanced Scripting, and I want you to really pay attention to the fact that there's two tabs. This one here, Advanced Scripting, is all about the C# scripts, which is really automation of your Power BI model. At least that's how I see it. And here we have the Expression Editor. This is where you would write DAX if you're going to use Tabular Editor to write DAX, and it will be used in the demos that we look at today. We've got a filter pane, which is not very similar to just the search option in Power BI, where you can just search for a particular word or something in your model, just the filter area. We then have the save button, and this is an important place where you do the saving back to your Power BI file, which again we'll talk to. And then we have this little one I'm just calling out now, and I'll show you what that's like shortly, where you can just use that to create a simpler view of your of what's going on in there. And then there's lots of other icons and things that you can do, which I'm not going to cover in full detail here. We may touch on some new ones as we go through. So that is really where I want to walk away from the slides now and actually get involved in using Tabular Editor. So what we have, let me just pop Leon out of the way for a moment. What we have here is a Power BI model. Very simple. We have we've got a fact table and a few dimensions coming off that. And here's all the stuff that's going on in here. But we've got, this is our fact table, both in the relationship view and here. And I want to now start using Tabular Editor to save myself a bit of time. So I'm going to the External Tools option, and I'm choosing Tabular Editor, this one here, this first one, which is the free version. I also happen to have a Tabular Editor 2 or 3, but I'm going for Tabular Editor Ordinary. So we'll turn it on, and you'll see that's the thing that we looked at earlier. I just want to set it up for use, if you don't mind. Whoops. So I'm making sure that you can see things a little bit more clearly. Right. And the last thing, these are the various bits and bobs, like here's your data model. Down here is the property pane, but we've nothing selected, so there's nothing to see. Here's the two, here's the two different tabs. We've got those, we've got the filter, and we've got the save, and so on. But I also mentioned we've got this little one here, which I think is useful to know about. It actually is on at the minute. I'm going to turn it off, and you'll see that it gives me a lot more choices that I don't use, data sources, relationships, roles. I've no need to be using them. So that option there is just a much simpler way to look at what you're looking at inside Tabular Editor. Right. So here we go. So what is it? What does it do that makes things really easy? We're going to go through a series of things that it can do. And these are little snippets of code that I have available, and I'm going to run this one here. So this is C#, okay, and it's in the advanced scripting area because it's C#. It's not in the expressions editor because that's DAX. So here we are. We've got a command that we're going to work on, and we're really going to do it against this table here. And all I want to use this script for is to say, for every column that I select, which I'm doing at the minute, these are selected columns, okay? I've finished my selection, but these are, and this is now called C. My selected columns are now a variable. For each variable, which is now selected, which is called C, change the property of that to hidden, right? So in other words, we'll hide that just out of view. So I'm going to run that script. Boom, that's run. Now, you'll see here, they've now turned grey. You see that they've greyed out. And you will also see down in the property pane, let me just select one of the ones that have been hidden, and you will see that really what has happened is, actually it'll be better if I take it with the full thing. You will see that it has changed that. It has changed that from false to true. So that's really what that script has done, but it's done it en masse. Now, have you saved yourself an awful lot of time? Maybe not, but you know, it saves you a little bit of time. But also we look over here, just over here, and we'll see that nothing has happened in Power BI. And that's simply because we have to save that change. So I'm just going to click on the save icon, and then we'll notice that it should why does that not, what am I missing here? Oh yes, I apologize, it's been doing it all along, and I thought I had the view hidden, whatever that one is. Let me just oh, that's because I'm in the relationship view. Right, so they're now gone from view. Sorry about that. So that's just been done, but that's, as I say, very, very simple. Now, even though it's a simple thing, the beauty of this is you can have a script, something that's doing something that's really useful, and you can save it into your Tabular Editor solution. So what do I mean by that? Is I could then decide I always want to be able to have this script. I don't want to have to go off and find it in a notepad, which is where it currently is. I want that to always be available in Tabular Editor. So how do I do that? I just click on this plus, this green plus button, and I can just say hide columns, for example, and I'll just say, look, I want to apply this to the model. I'll say I want to apply it to the column, and I can OK that. And that means that the next time I open Tabular Editor, I can just go to my custom actions, and I will have that. In fact, I'll just empty that out so you see it a little bit more clearly. Custom actions, hide columns as table, and it's just there inside Tabular Editor, and I can use that on the next model. So that's a really useful thing to know about. Now, simple one, but nonetheless. Right, over to the next one. And this time, I'm just going to replace this with a new one. Let me just drag this down a bit for space. Right, we're going to add measures to the selected columns. Okay, so what do I mean by that? We have over here, we've got columns, we've got values in here that really need their own calculation. So we're just going to do a really simple sum of calculation against these different columns. And if we just look at the script itself, not because you need to be able to read it all, but it's useful to know. This time again, we've got this for every column selected, and it's these ones. So I'm just going to go on ahead and select them. What I want you to do is create a new measure, and this is the command to do that. I want you to call it whatever the name of it, whatever the name of the column is, but I want you to prefix it with total, and then you can see there's a space there to allow for a space between the word total and commission in this first instance. And then the next thing I want you to do is I want you to do this calculation. So create this measure, which is the literal is the sum, and then the actual name of the object, which is transactions. If we take the first one, it's transactions, then commission. That's the full object name, and that's what that refers to. And then we just need to close it off with a closing bracket. And then we will then just format it to 0 decimal places and add in the thousand separator. And then the final thing is to hide the original column and just get that done. So we've got these 4 measures. We've had a quick rummage through what the script itself is doing. Now we will run it. And there's the green run. Boom. And there's our new measures up at the top. And our original columns have now been hidden. And there's I'm just selecting the first one, the total commission, and we go to the expression editor, and there it is, you know, exactly what we told it to do, to take that measure and just give it a sum and call it total commission. Boom. So we'll save that, and we'll see that then take place. And now we have our fact table that is now just starting to have simply calculations within. So that's our next one. It will be a series of scripts. There's no getting away from that, but each one just sort of extends it out a little bit more. And right.
And Mary, we do have a question just coming in. Will you be providing the scripts after the session as well?
Absolutely, 100%.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we have a slightly different, it's the same concept, selecting the measures that we now have. And this time we're going to create a series of calculations, no longer columns because we've dealt with columns, but we're going to be doing a for each against the selected measures. Okay, so subtle difference there is that these are against measures, not columns, but otherwise everything is ridiculously similar. So what we're doing here is we're going to create essentially the total year to date. So we're going to have total commission year to date as a name for the new measure. And what it's actually going to do is it's going to write this measure, which is, and the expression for that is we're going to literally tell it what does it begin with, which is total year to date. Then we're going to reference, if we think about the total commission, we're going to reference the measure total commission. And then we're going to factor in the date column, which I was a little bit too quick to not. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Apologies about that. I had determined what the date column is called in my particular model. So this just allows you to have variations on what your date table might be called. It could be calendar, it could be date table, it could be just dates, whatever. So you can just make that statement at the very beginning, and then it will just use the dates table whenever it's doing the calculation. And then do the format string. That's the first one. We're also doing prior year. We're then doing the variance, and then we're doing a percentage variance. So we're doing all of those at the same time. So I've selected these, and I'm now going to run my script. And boom, there they are. So we've just got now, our 4 measures are now we've now got 20 measures out of the 4, just in a heartbeat. And that's what I love about this. So let me just give this a quick save, and you'll see them turning up. And here they are over in the model. So let's start looking at some of these. We'll just stick with commission. I just drop in commission. Let me just, I don't care about you. I really care about the measures. And, you know, we'll just pop in the prior year, you know, variance. We've got that straight away, just by running a script, which, as I say, you can then just save and give that a name that you might want to use, that you can then have that stored in your thing. In that case, I would choose measure. I'm not going to bother, but we do have a whole whack now of calculations. Okay, the next one we're going to do, I'm going to go back to PowerPoint for a minute. And the story behind this is, this was me writing my first measure that I wasn't just simply borrowing from somebody else. Because the nice thing about Tabular Editor is there are a lot of scripts out there, and it will grow and it will increase all the time, where you don't necessarily have to learn how to write your own. But I wanted to, you know, because I wanted to, there's measures in here that I use that I wasn't finding elsewhere. So I had to write my own. And it was embarrassing how long it took me to write it. Like, it was absolutely ridiculous. That was the really challenging part. And the reason behind that is it's totally and utterly connected with just getting this, like anything, it's just getting the syntax correct. So I just want to go back to PowerPoint before we look at it in more detail. So this is what I wanted to create, okay? And I wanted to get a total, well, I wanted two, but in this instance, in this first example, we're looking at I want to create a measure called, in this case, total GWP all. So what is the percentage? It's not a very well written measure or name of a measure, but it's the percentage of all the GWP. And here's my formula for it. So I've created a variable and I've called it calc, and what I'm doing is I'm calculating in this case the measure total GWP, but for all transactions. Okay, so there's my variable, and then what I want to do is simply return back, divide the total GWP into this calculation, right? And that's going to give us the what we need. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, and it really is about following a lot of the logic that you saw before. So first off, we're going to do our variables. We've got a table here, and the table is transactions, right? So we want to just let that know that, you know, we can simplify the code just by using T instead of transactions. So we've got that, and what else have we got? Right, we've got another variable. So for all the selected measures that I'm going to select, and this is going to take me back to the 4 starting measures that we have: total commission, total fees, GWP, and paid. Right, so we want those particular measures, and what we're going to do is, as before, we're just going to call it. We're just going to say, call it whatever the original measure is called, but add all percentage to the end. And then next up, and it's easy once you know how, and that's why I really want to stress this. It's once you think about it and do it properly, and don't just keep trying all sorts of weird and wonderful things, it becomes quite easy to write your own. Right. So what we have to do first off is we have to really start. We've done the measure name. That's dealt with here. That's all done. Right. So now what we're having to do is just create something that is going to return back exactly what we're looking for. So we have to state this part of the, sorry, we just need to state the first part of it, which is literally put in var calc blah blah blah, close it, plus this is then something that this is the selected measures in the model, select them, and if you just pay attention to what's up there, and then we're back into, what else are we trying to do? We're then back into the plus, open the quotation marks, against the table transactions, because we variabled it earlier. And then what do we want to do? We want to return the total GWP and then finish that off with the divide into the calc. Okay, so that's how you do it. It's easier than you think if you just go nice and slow and do that. So here it is. Here it is in reality. So we've got exactly what I've talked about. We're doing that. And then the other thing I wanted to do, and we're also formatting it. Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to do is do there's two in here, isn't it? Maybe I didn't grab all of them. No, you do that again. I wanted percentage all, or all percentage, and all selected. I want both of those in my model. So that was easy to do the second one once you've mastered the first one, because it's just exactly the same concept, but instead of all, it's all selected. Right, so what are the measures we want to do them against? It's total commission, total fees, total GWP, and total paid. And off we go. Boom. We now have, for all of those, we've now got that. And you don't have to, you may not be using them all, you may not want them for them all, but you choose the ones that you need it for, should you need it. And now we have the all percentage and percentage selected. Let me give that a save. And they should be turning up nicely. Here we go. And we'll pop that into the table. So we've got our all and our all selected. Right. Now, there's another thing that you can do with Tabular Editor. And there's experts on this out in the field. I'm not one of them. But there is a thing called calculation groups, which can only be done using Tabular Editor. So if you want to use calculation groups, and they are pretty neat, then Tabular Editor is it's not a choice. You absolutely have to do it. So what I want to do, maybe it's better if I sort of explain it from this perspective. I would like, just pop in. Just want to focus on the fact that we have three different relationships against from transactions and the date table. And we've got the active one, which is date created in this instance, and we've got two inactive ones, which are these two other dates that are available in the actual data. And what I want to be able to do, just so you can have a nosy at that, go to transactions, these are the three dates in question. And depending on the user's need for this kind of real life scenario, is the user may want to look at these calculations against any one of those dates. So this is where calculation groups are amazing. And let me show you how this works. So calculation groups are DAX. So I've moved away from advanced scripting and I'm in the expression editor. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to add a calculation group. And you do that from the model pane. You're not going to access it. So there's create new. That was a right click calculation group. If I do that from any other area, there's no way to get to that. So just be mindful, it's at the model level that you do it. So we're going to say calculation group, right? And now we have this new opportunity. We've got this thing in here, it's sitting there, and I'm going to call it which date. So that's the name of this calculation group. And now it's down here. It's just what did I do with that commission? Oh, I deleted it. Okay. Oh dear, that's going to cause me problems, isn't it? Right, hang on. No, we're all right. We're absolutely grand. Let me just close that. And I nearly messed things up, but thankfully these have all been saved back to the model. So I can just close Tabular Editor and start again. And I promise you, I did a lot of this while I was getting familiar with it. So we're back. We've got everything back, and total commissions is not lost. So let me get away from that. Okay, so create new calculation group, and we're going to call it which date. And I'm going to rename this name to which date. So at the minute it's just called name, and I'm doing this in the property pane because it seems to be easier to do it that way at this point. So here's our calculation items. So I want to add a new calculated item, and I'm going to call that created. I'm going to create all three of them just from a names perspective. And you know, this is personal preference, whatever, you know, what way you want to approach it. Just prefer to do it this way. So if I just go back here to the relationship, this is the active relationship, the one that is against date created. So what I'm doing in the very first instance, I'm saying, look, when it's created, then just use the selected measure, which is the measure that the date table knows is the active relationship. So I can just add that in. I then go to my effective date, and this is using the user relationship one, where you're saying, right, this is, instead of using the active relationship, I want you to, in this instance, use the, you know, the inactive relationship, which is the date raised in this case, and make that one apply. So I'm just going to check that one, say yes, I'd like that. And then the final one is date settled. I'll pop that in, and that's the date settled measure. Right, so therein we've got this calculation group. I'm finished with creating it. So now I want to choose save. And not worry too much about that. When you create a calculation group, it doesn't automatically just update. You have to choose refresh now. That's just part of what happens. And now we have this calculation group here in the model. Okay, so how am I going to use it? This is how I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it in a slicer. So let's get the visualization pane. It's not going to be year. It's going to be which date, right? I'm going to drop that into the field. And now, and then because I want to encourage selection, single select, the single select. So created is the default, okay, because that's where the relationship exists. But as soon as I choose effective, if you notice the value here as well, the values will change, maybe not very much, but these numbers certainly at the bottom of the table are going to change slightly. And we go to effective, and you can see that the figures now using the effective date have changed. And if I choose settled, they're going to change again. So that is just this. I love this because my alternative method of doing this, I'm not even going to share with you because of the simplistic nature this brings compared to doing it in the well, the way I did it before. I'm more nervous that it's a really dumb way. Could be. Anyway, so we do have, so
sorry,
we've
Mary.
got, yeah.
Just to jump in, when we're showing the script, is it okay just to zoom slightly? The users just experienced a little bit of difficulty in seeing some of the scripts, that's all.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So let's just, yep, I can do that. Let me just get back here. Now, I'll explain. Yeah, I'll take you through this again. Unfortunately, there is no zoom in this part, but let me just show you what I was talking about the selected measure. So that's the formula, the expression for the selected measure, whatever that measure is. So it's not a specific measure, it's just any of the measures. If you look back here at this experience, all of these are changing to reflect whatever I choose here. So I choose created and we get 1,084,000. I choose effective or here, you know, any of these are all, everything that's in there is being changed and affected by me making that change there. So that was the selected measure. If I then go to the next measure, let's have a closer look at that. We're saying here, in a normal sense, if we were doing this back in Power BI just against a measure, this would be if we take total commission as an example, what we'd be saying here is calculate total commission, but use this relationship as opposed to the active one. Oh, but in this instance, it's whatever measure is on that table. So it's not specific to a certain measure. I just find that amazing. Now, there's lots more you can learn about calculation groups. I'm giving you the example that I use it for. There's more. I've used it for having different where a person can choose the type of measures they want to see in a table, that they can pick and choose. If they want to see all the different measures, they can do that. Or if they want to maybe just limit it to just the one, that's also available. But yeah, so I think really all I'm trying to say here is the calculation groups are wonderful and well worth looking into more. Okay, so that is covering that one. And then we're going to go back to just a few more examples of this, and we'll be then wrapping up. And if there's any further questions, I am more than happy to take them. Right, so we're going back over to advanced scripting because that's where we are now. And I'm just going to pop in this. Okay, so if we look at some of these measures, we go to the expression editor. That's probably all selected. You can see that they're not conforming to a properly formatted measure. And what we can do is just use a way to ensure that all measures in the model, every single one of them, is formatted to the right standard. Okay, and I don't need to select anything, because what we're saying is for every measure in the model, format the DAX. And I just run that code. It takes a bit longer than other ones because there's a bit more work to be done. And if we look at the total commission, all selected percentage, and I nip over to the expression editor, you will see that we have got nicely formatted DAX. And I can just save that back into the model. And let's just go back to that one again. And there it is. So you can just do a nice bit of cleansing at the end of when you've completed a piece of work, and just go fire up Tabular Editor and go and make sure that everything has been correctly formatted. And I think that's pretty special. And then the final one, this is the final. Same concept in this one. Script for all measures in the model, right? And this is borrowed, okay? What I'm asking it to do is to update the description of that measure to tell me the actual expression that is making up that measure, and I'll show you what I mean when I do that. Okay, so if we look over here and I hover over, can you see just whenever I'm hovering over this particular measure, we just get back, what is the name of it? Right, nothing more than that. Whereas I want that to let me see what the actual calculation is. You know, what is creating that? And I just run this script. I'll save it. And let's go back over. Nope. Okay, let me run this. Maybe I run that. Save it. Thank you. Sorry about that. Can you see when I hover over, I don't need to, you know, I can just quickly, I don't have to, if I want to understand how a measure is being, you know, written, I don't have to then do this and go up and read it here. I can just simply hover over and see how that's been calculated. And where I think it's particularly useful is if I just get this one over, when you're up here and you're in the service and you're working away in the service perhaps, and you're just not sure what the actual expression is for a particular measure and you've no way to get to it in the service itself, you get that return back where you can see how that calculation was created and what the formula is behind it. So back to Really, that should say thank you very much, and for some reason it doesn't say that. Apologies. But what we have firstly is this is the link to the slides itself, okay, which you're more than welcome to access. And the PBX file is in there, the original before any changes. All the scripts are in there, and more importantly, you know, the scripts are good, but if you can really start to get that buzz about Tabular Editor and you want to take it to the next level, then you can, you know, there's loads of links here to various places and people that you can go to and get more information on. So that takes me to the end of the session.
Excellent.
I will stop sharing.
No
so there we
problem
go.
at all.
If you have questions, that's
Absolutely
great.
fantastic. Absolutely fantastic session there, Mary. Really appreciate you going through that Tabular Editor for us, and some great tips and tricks there as well, particularly as you mentioned, being able to see measure definitions when you're looking at using the service to edit reports. I think that's in particular is a great trick to share with us. So thank you very much for that. To everybody listening in, we have just put a feedback form. Obviously, every week when we do our live events, we like to gather feedback to understand how we can continue to make these webinars great for you. So please do take 10 to 15 seconds or so to go and fill that out for us. And then Mary, in terms of some questions, we do have some questions to go through.
Sure.
One in particular is an anonymous question, and they ask if their company has a strict security policy against installing external tools, how would they go about still getting Tabular Editor?
Okay, I don't know if I have a definitive answer. I do believe that there is a light version, something like that. Look, the answer is unfortunately going to be Google it. There is the potential that there is a way, or I'm more than happy to go and research it myself, and then maybe pop up on the comments back in Meetup. There is a potential way to get it installed without it interfering with security, the group policies, but I can't be 100% sure.
Yeah, no problem at all. The portable version allows that to be done with Tabular Editor as well. So to download and install the portable version.
There you go. There's the
that.
answer. I should have said the answer.
No problem at all. In terms of, sorry, I think we've got another question coming in now. Sorry, so that's actually some feedback. So fantastically paced session, some of the feedback coming in there. So great, thank you for providing the feedback. Also, in terms of the C# scripts, I know you went into a bit of information on how you got started using the C# scripts. For people that may be put off in terms of using C#, what advice would you give to them?
My advice is don't worry about it to begin with. Don't even think about writing a script. Use the scripts that you find, like the ones I've given you as examples. Just use them. I'll show you what they look like when I'll show you exactly what I'm at in terms of. Oh, you can't see it, but I'll do a quick share. Just a very quick share. This is literally just a list of scripts that I have sitting in a notepad. And you just grab them and paste them into Tabular Editor don't even give it a thought. Don't think about what's in there. Just know that what you're starting off with is the things that you do need to be thinking about is, are you dealing with a column? Are you dealing with a measure? That's probably the decision that you have to make. When you're at the very beginning, the embryonic stage, you're creating your measures against columns. Once that's done, you're now probably making changes to measures. Outside of that, just use the scripts and don't give them any thought. Then, as you start to maybe go, right, okay, perhaps you have a situation as I did, where all of these scripts up above are all pretty much borrowed from other places. And then I got to this particular one here, where I wanted the percentage, because it's something I always bring into my models. I want to know what the percentage all is and the percentage selected. And that's whenever I had no choice. I had a choice. I could have just written them and ignored Tabular Editor and just gone, well, nobody's written it for me, so I'll just go old school. But I chose to figure out how to do it, and I'm so glad it did, because once I did, it started to become less frightening, but it wasn't it wasn't pleasant to begin with. So I hope that just don't worry about it is really my just use the scripts, and there's lots more out there, and there's a lot of videos and all sorts of resource out there that can, as you progress, that you can go to.
Excellent, thank you very much. And the final question, Tabular Editor free, is it worth it?
Right, I have both, and I'm not right. I don't consider myself a high-level Power BI developer. I really don't. I work on, quite simple things, but I do them really well. That's how I like to think about it. I make life easier for my customers. They get access to everything really well. But in there's not high-level stuff going on. So for me, even though I have both, I really don't have. I don't use the three at all. So if you're a Power BI user but not on a heavy duty scale, then 2's absolutely fine. If you're using it on a regular basis, then the value of it is crazy. Plus you can get a free trial and figure it out yourself.
Excellent, great feedback there. Thank you very much, Mary. And once again, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us at today's session.
You're very welcome. Very welcome.
Excellent. And thank you to everybody for joining us as well. As always, the Microsoft Power BI UK User Group webinar has been brought to you in association with Onyx Data, and we'll be back with you next week as well. So stay safe and see you again soon.